If you were unlucky enough to catch my last video, you will remember Aston decided to purchase his rather tired looking CL500 with a known suspension issue and likely lots and lots of other unknown issues too.
Come on, take that seatbelt off.
On the face of it, it looked like a relatively decent car. It came with loads of factory extras like these sporty cool AMG wheels, the silky smooth upgraded Napa leather seats and a shiny keyless start button. It had a premium sound system and even a period in-car phone that's obviously now completely useless, but Aston seemed to like. In fact, the car was so packed with cool gadgets, I was soon ignoring the absolute state of the car because I was just completely besotted by it in a way only a tragic car guy like me can be. I think other car guys will understand, and I think Aston does. But the main issues to solve were obviously the suspension error and the engine management light cause, which was rather worrying. Given I had other priorities at the time, and also given I didn't used to spend so much time touching the mechanics of cars back then, I sent the car to a reputable Mercedes specialist to have this, and of course any other issues they found, fixed so we could just enjoy the car. Back then I had plenty of money in the bank and I wasn't really that worried about what it was going to cost, I just wanted it fixed. It wasn't really a surprise that the Mercedes specialist found loads of stuff wrong with the car. But most surprisingly, despite initially agreeing to do the work and having a really nice chat with the guy, and me waiting 2 weeks for a slot in his workshop and having to bring it all the way over 2 hours from where I live, he then had a change of heart and explained he didn't generally work on classic cars and he didn't want to carry out the work on his car. He went on to explain to me that people who own these cars do not tend to be very happy people and that he didn't really have the time for it. I personally think he was just busy at the time, saw all the work that needed doing and just didn't fancy it. But even my explaining to him that this car was really just a toy and there was no urgency and he could take his time, it didn't help. He just didn't want to fix it, and I do think that's rather naughty given he let me drop it off. The weirdest thing is he then wanted my courtesy car back that very afternoon, and I had to get an emergency time off work so I could bring it back to him. And I did start to wonder myself, had he found something on the car that made it not worth repairing? Something that made it the sort of car that I needed to get shot off quite quickly. So I asked him, but he said no. He said there was nothing specifically bad about that particular car, but it was just a commercial decision that they didn't want to work on it. When I got to the garage, I was even more disappointed to find out that he'd nipped out to avoid me. My suspicions are that he did on purpose nip out so he didn't have to speak to me, but we'll never really know. But his young workshop assistant was very helpful and friendly, and I asked a few questions. He told me not to panic, and he told me it could be a good car if it was fixed up. He said it probably just needed a couple of thousand spent on it. At that point I started to become a bit deflated about the whole thing. The garage in question was one I'd used with 5 different Mercedes cars, and despite the owner being a little eccentric and often quite blunt, I'd always respected that, and I had hoped my past business had demonstrated I was not scared of the costs involved in owning old cars, even big ones. Somebody on the forum recommended a completely different specialist garage, and I did get it booked in again, but then we had to unexpectedly take Aston to hospital the day before, and realising I couldn't get back in time, I had to cancel. The sorry little CL sat motionless in our driveway. In January of the year 2022, the work started on our new garage. The concrete pad was the first thing to happen, and then in March I needed to move the Mercedes out of the way so that the garage could be built. This was the first time the car had moved in 4 months, and sadly it wouldn't start. I couldn't work it out, and with the date for putting the garage up hurtling closer, I managed to find a wonderful auto electrical mechanic who was kind enough to come out to the house, and he got the car started by shorting out some of the connections in the ECU. He diagnosed the issue as a corroded electrical connector, which he replaced, and then the CL was finally moved. Work on the garage continued. I moved the Mercedes into the corner of the garage, April 2022. Little did I know it wouldn't move again for another 2.5 years. One of the first things I noticed was that the CL was having a little accident on my floor. These fluid leaks are very minor, but to this day I've never been able to work out 100% where all the leaks are coming from, or if I fixed them. We'll only really know that when I start using the car again. The first thing for me to do was to get the car up on axle stands so I could take a look. The under trays all came off, revealing nearly 20 years of grease and grime. I found the rear ABC valve set and the hydraulic pressure spheres, and I also found the other set, which was in the front passenger side wheel arch. Both of the blocks were removed, they were stripped down, cleaned, and then all the seals replaced to prevent the leaking. Then everything went back into the car, but with all brand new hydraulic spheres too. Everything I could replace, I replaced. The hydraulic fluid was all flushed out and replaced with brand new. And then one day we got so bored we decided to paint the calipers and the disc inner shoulders too. Of course Aston helped out with that. We degreased and washed all of the under trays, but sadly, after everything went back together, the car would not even rise up 1 millimetre. I got busy with other things and 2022 quickly disappeared, and the CL continued to sit quietly in the corner like a naughty schoolboy. Christmas came and went. The other cars in the household stole the limelight in 2023, and the lonely CL did not get touched for an entire year. "2023 was also the year we said goodbye to our lovely Daimler. After the way I've seen Jaguar go in 2025, I actually feel pleased I no longer own any of their products. It's not really something I want to be associated with these days. But I do miss our old Daimler. In August 2023, I managed to spend a bit of time on the CL, and I replaced the ABC suspension pump. I was just assuming this might have died completely and might be part of the cause. It was surprisingly easy to replace, and I have no idea why garages are so intimidated by it. I'm guessing it's because it's something unusual and something they don't do very often. If you want to do it, you can do it in less than half a day, probably a couple of hours if you know what you're doing. At this point I got very excited. I really did think this was going to be the time I was going to be able to enjoy a drive in the CL. But sadly, the moment of truth was a big disappointment, and the CL still refused to rise up off the ground. It turns out the pump was not the only problem after all. I did try the pressurise the tank method with an airline, but that didn't work either. I tested the pressure sensor to make sure that was working, but no, that all seemed okay as well. And at this point, I was getting completely demoralised. The CL sat motionless in the garage for the rest of 2023. Then, in November 2023, I bought myself a new toy to help diagnose the problem. I have no affiliation, but outside of the Mercedes Star solution, this was the only kit I could find that would actually read Mercedes cars properly, particularly doing the suspension functions. The scanner pointed to the rear ABC valve block, so I took it back out again. It turned out one of the valves was not inserted correctly, and when I put it back together, it was time to see if I had finally fixed it. While I fixed the rear valve block, Aston decided to disassemble Spencer's bike. Of course. Why not? And then, as if by magic, just like that, after nearly 3 years of waiting and tinkering about, the suspension was finally fixed, and the car rose majestically to its normal ride height. Then we tried full height too, and that worked perfectly as well. So me and young Spencer did the only thing you would do in such a situation. We took her out for a short drive. We managed to get all the way out to the middle of the driveway. It was magical. Because it had been stuck in the corner of the garage gathering dust, I'd forgotten what a pretty car the CL is, and I almost feel guilty I've left such a magnificent creature stuck in the corner of the garage for so long. But even for just a short while, our CL was free again, and it was an incredible sight. Sadly, there is still loads more work to do on the car before we can drive it properly, but I was reminded of something Aston said to me once. He said, "Dad, when we finish the CL, will we drive it?" And at the time I said, "Yeah, I think so." Well, now that actually seems like it could one day be a reality. That's all for now, but I'm sure I'll be back with further updates in the future. Thank you for watching.